Thank you for joining William Steele True Crime and Steele the Spotlight TV and now Public Relations. We have an incredible guest today, one of the top true crime authors, in my opinion, especially in Mafia genre, in the United States right now, Nick Christophers. Nick, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. I definitely appreciate it. I do.
no, no problem. You're a complex character. We met. I heard about you here and there. You know, I was in prison 18 years for nonviolent crimes, and I started my true crime channel. And we know a lot of the same people, so I keep seeing your name pop up. But we never really talked or met until about 2 weeks ago
hmm
in New York. Tell my audience how we ran into each other.
Literally, we hit each other in the elevator. No, I'm kidding. Um, it was a mutual friend of ours, Ciro DePazio, was doing his premiere of his film Silent Partners. And, was walking towards the step and repeat area. And, William was there. And, we looked at each other and said, oh, I know you, and that kind of thing. And we started talking, and it was great meeting him. And I'm very fortunate to make a connection with him and being on the show today.
And I remember somebody that saw us talking came up and pointed at you and said, "Look at him! Look at him! Wouldn't he be a great hitman hiding in the corner in one of the movies?" Because you'll always look so mysterious, you know.
Won't be the first time or the last, that's for sure.
Right. So, you know, my background: 18 years for nonviolent crimes. I was a jewel and art thief. I have had a change of heart. I write books, screenplays. I'm working on a feature film and drama series about my life. And one of the biggest things we do now is we advocate for people who are wrongfully convicted, like true cases. I'm not going to be conned or BS to help somebody that's just trying to BS me. I don't use my platform for that. But if I see a legitimate case where somebody needs help, I'll help them. But more so, like we help crime victims, we help senior citizens. And it seems like since I got released, the more you get involved in that arena, the people that are doing all the real serious crimes against these people, like assisted living facilities and all that, and these fake guardians, what they'll do is they'll try to fabricate charges against you to try to shut you down, especially if they see you have a criminal history. So when I get involved with any of these things, I take video evidence. I record all my movements. I GPS everything, and so I am squeaky clean because I realize that my past can catch up with me in unexpected ways when somebody with no past makes a bogus accusation. You know, at least I have the video to counter what they're saying. So it's been a really crazy ride because I'm not doing these true crime shows just to talk about true crime and glorify crime. I want people to learn from my past and not make the mistakes I'm making. And I like having inspirational characters on here. And I find you're one of the good guys. You're doing the right thing out there. You don't have the criminal history I have, but you have a lot of wealth of experience. Tell my audience more about who Nick Christopher is. Now, I know you're from New York like me. Give us something on your background and how you became a writer. I know you have know a lot of organized crime figures, but you're a writer. So let's hear about it.
Well, technically, I do want to hop on something you said earlier, but I'll talk about it in a little while.
Okay.
And when it comes to my writing, I've been writing since I was like 12. And like I've said on other shows before, I was inspired by a book called The Outsiders
Hmm.
by S.C. Hinton, which I'm sure you know about. And they made a film about it with Matt Dillon and Patrick Swayze and Rob Font.
Penny Boy was in there.
Great freaking movie. Um, and when I was in elementary school, actually, I was bullied every day. I was beat up every day, and because I wasn't, I mean, I was a quiet kid at that time, and I was a little skinny guy, whatever. So when I got into junior high school, I'm from Rockaway Park, near Howard Beach area, and when I got into junior high school, there was a guy I met. His name was John, and he was the leader of the gang in the school called the Bay
Mhm.
Riots or the Bay Boys, whichever one they used. And I said, oh, and he was Greek like me. So I said, oh, wait a minute, let me see here. So I connected with him, and I eventually became a member of this gang.
Right.
And so, in other words, I used them as a shield, basically. So when I got into junior high, all the guys that picked on me in elementary school, I started a fight with them in junior high.
Now you had some backup.
That's exactly the reason.
I remember I saw some of your interviews and I saw one you did a big one on, I think it was Reels TV, and over 2 hours, and you were saying that your initiation was to do something illegal, and you decided to steal a Penthouse magazine.
Yeah, I shoved it down. Yeah, it was back because back then we had what we called was a five and dime. It wasn't
Right,
like it's like the CVS of today, and they didn't have like cameras back then.
right.
So I said, let me do something. But I couldn't think of what to do to get initiated. So let me steal something. So I shoplifted I think it was a Penthouse, a Playboy magazine, and shoved it down my pants. And I'm walking out the store, and the cop stops me.
Yep.
And he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going home." He said, "No, you're not." I said, "Why not?" And he says, "Lift up your shirt." This is in the summertime. I'm like, I'm not lifting up my shirt. And he says, "Lift up your shirt." So back then we respected the cops. We didn't like fight with them or argue with them.
Exactly.
So I picked up he found I've been lifting my shirt. Eventually, he said, "How did that get there?" I said, "Oh, shoot, I don't know how that got there. I'm sorry about that." So he started looking at me. He said, "Yeah, okay." So he took my phone number, my address, all the information. And he said, "Go home. I'm going to call your house in about a little while and talk to your father." I said, "Oh shit." I said, I got to get out of here. So thank God that store was like not too far from where I lived. So I bolted. I ran home.
Right.
And at that time, happened to have a phone in my room. And once the phone rang, I picked it up right away. And I could hear the officer's voice on the other line. "Hello, is this Mr. Christopher's?" So I took a sock and I put it over the phone. That's my voice. "Yeah, this is Mr. Christopher's. Who's this?" So I got away with it.
You posed as your dad and said you would take care of it, basically.
Yeah. My father has no idea that even happened to this day. Has no
Right.
clue.
You know what's sad? I noticed when I was in prison, a lot of guys in there, of course, oh, they're innocent or this or that. And a lot of times before the era of the cameras everywhere, there's abuses on both sides, right?
Hmm.
The respect for the police has gone down so much. And there were so many shootings of police officers. Now, on this show, we definitely support police. We need police in society. I don't hate police. They have a difficult job to do. They got two sides, competing interests, and probably everybody's lying to them one way or another. And even if you're telling the truth, a guy like me is very difficult to want to believe somebody when you see a criminal history. But at the same time, that could be the very person telling you the truth, and the one trying to conceal their reputation and their crimes, but they have no criminal history, could be the one that's convincing and have lawyers behind them, and
Hmm.
they're the ones getting away with the bigger crime,
Hmm.
the actual crime. So I noticed things really deteriorated, and then you have these policies where you have certain, Democrat, especially liberal, policies where there's no enforcement of violent crime. It's just absolutely crazy. It's especially in New York, where I'm from. It's heartbreaking to see the news up there constantly. It's just really heartbreaking. I don't get it. I don't get what the point of having a crime wave on society is. It's very sad. It's very unsafe. Could you imagine being a police officer in this environment where you're not going to be supported by your mayor or your attorney general or your prosecutor? It's just you're putting your life in danger for what?
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy thought.
Hmm.
And like, it's funny because I find a lot of wise, guys I grew up with, wise guys. They all respected cops, believe it or not.
Of course.
They said, they got a job to do. We got a job to do. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and my co-host, Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent. He got 77 books out. So he's my co-host once a week, and he knows me back in the day. I haven't done anything illegal in over 20 years, and he knows the changes I made and how far I've come. We do crime prevention shows, political shows all the time, and he can't believe it. He's like, "Look, it was bad when I was an agent." He said, "But it's gotten way worse." He said, "This is just so unsafe to be in law enforcement right now." So,
well, the simple. It might mean not to get all political now, but I agree with you. And basically,
yeah,
what I believe the reason why this is happening is if we really want to get serious about it, it's a form of socialism where they control us.
definitely,
So that's the whole basic theory of it
I
is
agree.
control. So keep the people down, and it's the same theory in the mob. Really, it's like the boss is the boss. Feed your army, just enough to keep them happy. You don't give them too much, then they're gonna want it all.
Right.
It's the same theory.
It's amazing. When I was in prison for many years, for nonviolent crimes. And the whole tide changed when Trump came in. It used to be virtually everybody in prison was a Democrat, loved the Democrats. Trump came in, boy, oh boy, the Democrats were bailing out of that party. All the guys that were in prison loved Trump because he was releasing a lot of nonviolent offenders and marijuana offenders from the federal system. And now, like the Democrats, it seems like they're just turning out, getting the smart ones. Are a lot of them are getting out of the party. And in fairness to my audience, I don't know your political beliefs. Mine, I don't. I'm not beat you over the head with mine, but I am. I don't even think I can vote. I don't know. I didn't look into it yet, but I am a conservative Christian Republican, and I just see what's going on, man. It's freaking horrible. I don't understand how it benefits anybody to let thousands of people come in every day to the border and not enforce laws, especially violent crime. I mean, the people that need help are the nonviolent and the substance abuse offenders and all that. They need help. They need to be in treatment or whatever. But the violent offenders, I mean, you have to do something about it. So
Yeah, well, that's another
a
that's
whole other show.
another show in itself. I mean, again, not for us to become too political here, but
Right.
I agree, and the same concept. It's the more people they let in, to them they see them as votes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's their. Doesn't make a difference who they are. They don't
No,
care if they live good or live bad or have money, don't have money, have food. They don't care. To them, it's just a vote.
they're finding so many of them crossing that have horrendous crimes they're running from and or direct ties to terrorist groups. It is absolutely crazy. We're going to get off this subject, and I will say this for the benefit of YouTube: the opinions of my guest Nick Christopher and my opinions, William Steele, are our own and not necessarily that of YouTube. And
Mhm.
so I don't want to get my station shut down again because God forbid you say the wrong thing on this station.
Yeah, God forbid is right.
Donald Trump's attorney is a very, very good friend of mine. He's been on my show. He said one sentence, which he had the evidence to back up, and YouTube shut my channel down for 2 weeks. He had the evidence. He's one of his lawyers. One sentence, they suspended my channel for 2 weeks.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
See, that's
I,
not freedom. That goes freedom of speech out the window. You
yeah.
know,
So
that's,
tell us more about you. How the heck did you become a writer? Now I know your dad owned a restaurant of some sort, I think, and the wise guys were coming and going when you were a kid.
well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I joined the gang when I was in junior high school,
Right.
and at that point, after reading Outsiders, that kind of gave me a little bit of a desire to want to write. I mean, I was writing poems before that, but I transitioned from poems to books. I mean, just to stories, whatever. So I started writing a lot, and I wrote about people I knew. What I saw and what I knew. I knew about gangs. I knew about, like you just said, a lot of guys used to come to my dad's cafe. Guys like John Booby Sosani from Sonny Black's crew, who I became actually friends with. Um, Vic Arena, who was the boss, acting boss of the Colombo family.
Right.
Angel Ruggiero, who was John Gotti's what a buddy, who had a house in Cedarhurst, which is not far from my dad's
Mhm.
cafe. Nicky Masson used to come in there. He wasn't really a major guy, but this guy was a pisser.
Right.
He used to come into the store, no joke, Will. He used to come there, sit right across from my father. My father was behind the counter. So he just sit there in the same seat every day. Nobody sat in his seat. God forbid anybody did. Nobody ever saw. It's weird. And he sat in the same seat all the time. And he was like I would think a loan shark, Shylock guy, and really nice guy. He used to come in all the time. He used to be very friendly with me. And he said to me one day, he goes, is there anything you want for Christmas? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I said, he says, you like going to concerts, right? I'm like, yeah, I like going to rock concerts. And he goes, I'll take care of you. I don't know what he was talking about. So he overheard me talking to somebody in the store about John Cougar. If you remember, you know who he is.
Yep.
And I liked John Cougar at that time. So he comes around about a week before Christmas and gives me a little envelope. I said, what's this? I was like hoping it was money. And so he gives it to me. He goes, just open it during Christmas. Don't open it now. I said, okay. So I waited. So Christmas times, I open it up. It's 2 front row seat tickets to John Cougar. Free. I was like, whoa, that's freaking huge. So that was like one of the things that I, started getting my attraction to that world,
Right.
And then there was another guy, Sally, used to come there all the time, and I was 13 years old at this time. So this guy Sally used to come in and walk behind the counter and go to the back of my dad's place. And then my dad had an office back there where he did
Right.
all, him and his brother, my uncle, did all the paperwork. So I'm like, where's this guy going? I said, Dad, where's this guy going? Don't worry about it. That was his line. Don't worry about it. Okay. So I
You
got
asking too many questions.
exactly. So I got curious after a bit, and then I watched him every Tuesday. He used to come to this place rather, and drop off an envelope full of these it was a fat envelope. I'm like, what the hell could be in there? So then I noticed that the envelope they used to put after a bunch of guys. They used to give these things out to these guys, and they were football sheets. So then later at the end of before he left, they used to put the envelope on top of the register, on top of the shelf. So when nobody was looking, I was curious. So I pulled it down and looking at it, this bunch of money in there with football. I said, "Whoa, that's what this is."
Right.
So the next time he came around, I took one of the sheets for myself. Not that I knew how to bet at 13. So I was in junior high school at this time. So I took the sheet, went to the local library, and made photocopies of it, a whole bunch of them. And I took the football sheets to school, and I had kids betting with me. So that was kind of like my, so to speak, in that world. Getting fascinated by him, hanging out with John Booby Sassani. I went to AC with him. He used to drive a white Lexus that he never, like the inside of it was all leather. And the freaking guy hardly ever vacuumed it. I'm like, are you ever going to clean this goddamn thing? He says, I like to live like this. Leave me alone. So, we went to AC one time and he was playing, I think, blackjack. I think it was a poker.
Right.
And he was winning. He was doing okay. So then he yells at me. He said, "Hey, Greek, come over here." I go, "What do you want?" He said, "You got $5,000?" I said, "John, do I look like I got $5,000 on me? What are you insane?" He says, "Give me whatever you got." So I think I had about 1,500, $2,000 on me. So I gave it to him. He bet and he won. He walked out of there with 20 grand. So I said, as we're driving back home, I said, "Where's my cut?" He says, "What are you talking about?" "What do you mean, what am I talking? I gave you $2,000. What do you mean, what am I talking about?" He says, "I'm driving you back, right? You're not paying gas, you're not paying tolls. Don't worry about it." Are you joking? So I never got my money back. So those are like my experiences with, these kind of guys. I mean, Vic Arena, I knew the whole family, great people, great guy.
Vic Arena, wasn't he against Colombo and the Persico, the wars, the Colombo wars, and all that?
That's right. That's
I
correct.
remember that. I was doing a lot of illegal things in Florida at the time, and I was on the run from New York. And one of my fences down there was a disgraced New York City detective, but he got run out because he was doing a lot of illegal stuff with the mob in New York. But he was a fence down in Florida, and he's told me, he said, "Hey, don't go to New York anytime soon, man. They're killing each other up there." I said, "When have you ever seen me hang out with mobsters? They all want to know me because I know how to get in and out of stuff. I don't want nothing to do with them because I don't need to open up a safe with $1 million in it and then catch a bullet in the back of my head, you know?" So I said, "You don't have to worry about me." He says, "Yeah, but you've been running guns." I said, "Don't worry about what I do." This is, 25 years ago, 20 something years ago.
Mhm.
But I said, "Don't worry about what I do." And I haven't been messing around with that for a while. So,
Good for you. That's good. Thank God for that.
yeah.
But yeah, that's how I kind of started writing about, these people and that kind of world. And because I knew about it. So it's like anything else, you don't write you can't write about what you don't know.
Right.
I'm not going to write a romance novel. Where to begin? It's you write what you know.
You never
And
know. You fall in love one day, you might write one. You fall in love yet?
I fell in love a couple of times. It never worked, but what the fuck? I mean, So anyway, so that's kind of how I started, and I wrote 4 books already. I'm working on a fifth one now. And
give
I
me give me your titles, and what I'll do is we'll put them up on the screen and check out my books and his books. The links will be in the description. From what I hear, I started going through one of them. He's got some phenomenal books. I know one you put into a screenplay, Destinies.
yes, right.
Tell us about it from the first one to what you have go the last one.
Mhm.
What each one's about briefly, and
I,
Yeah.
Well, Destinies is the one, like you just said, that I'm in the process. I'm working with a production company to make it into a film.
Mhm.
It's a painstaking process,
Oh yeah.
trying to raise funds to make the project, come to life. But we're getting close. Um, that one's a fiction story. That is, in a nutshell, it's about a family. It's really a family story. It's about a mother, a father, and a son, and how it's called Destinies, which means the destiny of each one of them, and how they collide.
Right.
It's about a mother that helps out a guy that doesn't know he's a wise guy. They end up falling in love, getting married, having a kid, and the son doesn't know who his father is because the father puts the son up for adoption because he made a promise to his wife that he would never have his kid in his world,
Right.
and he lived up to that promise. And the kid gets raised by a regular waspy family and doesn't know who his father is, thinks his adoptive father is his real father,
Mhm.
and then he eventually proceeds and he goes into the law profession, becomes a prosecuting attorney, and ends up prosecuting his father. And that's it's a lot more to it than that, but that's
Right.
basically the gist of that storyline. The second book was called Prison Rules that I did with John Alite. John Alite was the ex bodyguard of John Gotti Jr. That book's not about Gotti. I mean, because I took a lot of slack for that. It's about how to survive in prison. That's
Right.
it, and it's really meant for young people to deter them from
Yeah.
life
'Cause
crime.
you pronounce elite. A lot of people. I think I used to say Alite. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I know. I think he's Romanian or something, isn't he? Or
Albanian.
Albanian. So he's all over the place. He's doing well, but I heard there's a lot of questions about his past. Did he cooperate? Did he not cooperate? And I think he had some falling out with the Gotti family over
Some falling out.
over quite a few things. So,
Yeah, John's a great guy. John's an amazing guy. Um, I mean, like yourself, he's a guy who came out of prison and he's been doing everything positive, trying to help kids to keep them away from street life, that crime, the crime in general,
yeah,
which is positive.
definitely.
He's doing positive things.
Yeah, he's on a clean track. And what happens is haters from the past or people who want to see you fail will come up out of the woodwork and dredge up every little thing or accuse you of stuff you got nothing to do with. And so I can relate very, very much to his struggle. And I would just say there's other people that we both know that have done spectacular positive things since they got released from prison. And yeah, same thing. They got haters and they got naysayers and they got accusers. And it's just, it's probably never going to end. In my case, I learned how to deal with it because of my reality show. I had much love. They call me one of the most inspirational people in the country, one of the funniest people in the country. The show exploded in the ratings. It's on A&E, Inmate to Roommate. And they told me they have a legal team and a public relations team. The network A&E gives you a lot of guidance on how to behave.
Mm.
And one of the things is if you pick up haters or what they call trolls, we had like a Zoom meeting with a bunch of people and they giving me this guidance. And then at the end of the guidance, I said, okay, I'm more of a hands-on guy. I like to confront people face to face, but I know we're in a whole new world now, and I need to stay away from that, right? So I need to behave and everything, and get my lawyers involved if I need them. But people do say terrible things on the internet at times. So when the meeting was over, I said, you have any questions? I said, yeah. I said, what the hell's a troll? I've been locked up 18 years. We don't have smartphones. I've had to learn this thing over the last year. You know, we don't have social media. I'm on like 5 platforms all day long now, marketing and trying to help people, reaching out, seeing who wants to be on shows. I'm fielding a lot of invitations to be on other shows. So yeah, so John, I know he's got a big comeback story. I know Cyril DePaggio, he's got Mob King, he's got a great comeback story, and we can go on and on with that list. I mean, it's just incredible. Uh, uh, Joseph D'Onofrio, I met him at the Silent Partners premiere, the one that you and I attended in New York, and he's on there. I interviewed him on the red carpet. He wants to play me in the movie. Now he was in Goodfellas, A Bronx Tale, and all these other famous movies. And he goes, man, I want to play you. I want to play you. I heard you're producing something about your life. And I was teasing him. And I said, what do I do? You want to play me? What do I do? He goes, you do everything. He's a funny guy. So
Yeah.
So let's tell us about your next book after that one then.
Well, after Prison Rules,
Prison Rules. That's right.
Prison Rules was done with John Alite. After that, I did Mafia ties, the Greek syndicates, which is about the Greek mob
Right.
and how they work with the Italians and the Albanians and the Irish, which is a little bit different than what you normally read about. You know, most people don't really, most people don't know that Greeks even had a mob or even had a gangsters that were Greek, and there were a lot of them. And that book kind of covers it. That's nonfiction, of course, just like Prison Rules.
Right.
And that one's actually in the process of getting republished by a Canadian publisher right now as we speak. Sooner or later, it's going to be coming out under their imprint. Then the fourth one, which is called Destinies Volume 2, No Honor Among Thieves, which is basically part 2 of Destinies.
Right.
Which is picking up from where the other one left off, technically. So that's the gist of all four. Now I'm working on a fifth one, which is called Flowers Are Not Forever, which is also fiction, which I think is better. Actually, I like it better than my Destinies one, to tell you the truth. But, that's the way it goes. As you're writing, the more you write, the better you become. And the better idea, get better ideas, you learn more. That's kind of like what I found, and the more you do it, just like anything else, the more you do something, the better you're going to get at it.
I saw you in an interview. You had a photograph of yourself and one of the best actors on the planet, in my opinion, Armand Asante.
Good friend of mine.
Yep, he played John Gotti in the best Gotti movie ever made. He destroyed the rendition or the one that John Travolta did. I know he does a ton of European films. I believe he was in Mob King and was a Silent Partners. I think he was in both of them. He's done some stuff with Ciro, but he's phenomenal. Tell us about your involvement with Armand Asante.
Well, Armand, I had the pleasure of meeting him many, many, many years ago when I was the editor of a magazine, which I don't want to give too much credit to right now, because the publisher kind of screwed me over like a couple of times. But nevertheless, I met him when I was editor of that magazine, and we became friends since then. And I've been to his house, had the pleasure of being at his house, breaking bread with him twice, which was great.
About the house in South Florida?
No, he's got a home up in upstate New York.
Okay.
Cornwall, New York. And beautiful home, huge freaking house. But he's such a humble guy. And he's a man who's I think he was an Oscar award-winning actor. And he's so humble and so friendly and down to earth. He doesn't have no ego whatsoever. But you expect him to. You think somebody of his level to be like that, but he's not.
He's such a good actor. He's so convincing. You would never think he's a nice guy in private, but he is.
Yeah, he plays a great, like you just said. He played the only Gotti that was ever a good Gotti. That's
Absolutely, I agree.
Nobody else can top it. I don't care. There was a couple of people that tried. John Travolta, forget it, but that was terrible. That was the worst movie ever made.
Yeah.
There was Tom Sizemore tried to do him, act like him in a movie called Witness to the Mob with Nick Totoro. And Nick was great as Sammy Gravano. I give him credit for that. William Forsythe was good too, but Totoro, I think, looked like him and even kind of acted like him. He did Sammy well. There was another guy, I can't remember his name. He played Gotti in a movie with Lorraine Bracco. And Lorraine Bracco played the prosecutor, Diane Ciccolone. I think the movie was called Getting Gotti. I think it was. I don't remember the title. But Armand played him to a T. And he's a phenomenal actor, one of the best actors of our time. Unfortunately, he's not. He doesn't do any. He does very rare any American films.
Right.
He doesn't do anything in Hollywood.
I think I know how that happened. It's partially on your explanation on one of your interviews, but I've heard about this. Like, if you do too many independent films, the mainstream Hollywood, they look at it like you lose value. I look at it just the opposite. If you're big, you're never too big to help somebody coming up. If you believe in the project, you help out. That's just my belief.
Yeah, that's the right way to think.
Right.
It's not just him. It's him, Eric Roberts, William Forsythe. I can name so many other people that they've done, low budget films. And once you do a low budget film, that's it. You're done. Yeah. You're blacklisted in Hollywood.
Do you know Bruce Sosa?
Bruce, he played in Mob King.
Yeah, he's been on my show. You got to have him on your show. Former bad guy, tough guy from Providence, Rhode Island. Big, gigantic guy, covered in tattoos, really scary looking, right? and he's got a heart of gold. This guy, all he ever posts, all his social media is like about faith and believing in God and yourself and scriptural stuff. And so he's been on my show, right? And we've become friends. And towards the end, I said, I've never been led to pray with a guest before. I am a Christian, right? I'm not perfect, don't get me wrong, but I've never been led to pray with anybody. And I said, you know, there was a scripture, in all your ways acknowledge him and he'll direct your paths, right out of the Bible. There's a scripture.
Hmm.
And he goes, what? He says, my mother told that to me all my life. He said, it's tattooed on my leg. So he gave like like his encouraging testimony about my life and the things I'm doing for people out of prison. Like, you know, like I do shout outs for people going through recovery, personal. Hey, this is Bill from inmate to roommate, man. I've been where you're at. I struggled with cocaine addiction. You can do this. You know, here's my number. Here's my social media. Reach out anytime if you need somebody to talk to. You know, but I've done so much for people that like people don't even hear about. And he found out about a few things. He says, just like you're doing, you're using your past to really help people, and that makes a big impact. And so that's what he's doing. He's keeping it positive. He's been in a lot of A-lister movies. Rob Lowe, he's been with Rob Lowe. I think so many famous actors and actresses. He's just really blowing up. And so shout out to Bruce. You should have Bruce on your show. Matter of fact, he'd be great on your show.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. So okay, what's next? What's going on next now? What's
Well,
what are we working on over here?
I wanted to hop onto what something you talked about earlier. I have a very good friend of mine who's doing life in Pennsylvania. His name is Nicky Slick DiPietro. He was with the Philly crew, and I've been trying to help him for many years now. Great guy. I went to visit him twice, and unfortunately, I'm not gonna say he's a good guy. He's an angel. No, he's a wise guy. But it's one thing to go to prison for something you did, not for something you didn't do.
Right.
So he's doing life for a crime he did not commit.
Right.
And I know I know a lot of people say, "Oh, every prisoner says the same thing."
Right.
Let me tell you, no, that's true, but he just happens to be in prison for something he really didn't do.
Right.
And I'm not just saying that because I'm his friend. I did do my own little due diligence to find out, to learn. See, maybe this guy's full of it. So I did do my due diligence, looked at transcripts, read a lot of things, and I found out that he is doing time for something he didn't do. And to give you the gist of the story really quick, he was out one night with three guys, sorry. And one of the guys was supposed to get clipped that night, ironically. So they were doing club hopping. And they ended up in this one club called Club Deco in South Philly. And Nicky and this one guy walked into the front entrance, which there was a metal detector.
Mm-hmm.
If they were carrying, it would have went off, right?
Right.
So they weren't carrying anything. Two of the other guys went through the back entrance, which there is no metal detector. So they get in there, they're hanging out in the club. All of a sudden, one of the guys, we call him Blondie, was on the dance floor, and he was arguing with this big, tall black guy, Ted. His name was Ted Green. And they're having an argument. All of a sudden, Blondie pulls out a gun and shoots the guy. He doesn't die at the spot, mind you. So after, you can imagine, some guy gets shot, the place is pandemonium. Everybody's running everywhere.
Right. Right.
So they're running everywhere. Blondie and Nicky run out through the front door.
Mm-hmm.
Now Blondie hands over his piece to Nicky, and Nicky dishes it because protocol is you give it to your superior. So he dumped it. Though as they're running, and they get into this car. Now at this point, you can imagine police were called. They're coming to the scene. Blah blah blah. A bunch of people are pointing to the car that this is where the guys went. So they all go there, and Nicky gets grabbed. The cops recognize him, so they pick him up. So they pick him up, whatever. Eventually, he gets, sent to goes to trial. When he goes to trial, actually, sorry, at the night of the incident, 4 witnesses testified. Not testified, sorry. Put summations for the police.
Right.
What happened? They described the shooter as a blonde, 6 foot tall, wearing a Yankee bomber jacket.
Doesn't match your friend description at all.
Nothing. Nicky's my height, 5'7", slick black hair. Doesn't look anything like him. Nothing close. So at the trial, these 4 witnesses didn't come to the trial. 2 of them left PA. The other 2 didn't want to show up. So there's no witnesses for the defense. So Nicky gets tried.
Witnesses for the prosecution or the defense?
I mean, for the prosecution. Sorry.
Okay.
So Nicky gets, convicted, gets sent up for prison for life for murder. Lo and behold, Blondie, I learned later on. Now Nicky could have said this in trial. He could have took the stand. He could have done this, but he didn't believe in flipping. He didn't believe in that. He believed in the oath. So the guy who was the shooter is actually a street guy, like Nicky, that was an FBI informant. He was a CI. So what's a CI shooting anybody to begin with? They're not supposed to do that.
Right.
So basically, bottom line is it was a cover-up. The FBI didn't want to look bad. That their coveted informant killed somebody. So
hang on. Let's stop for 1 second, and then we'll come back to this. Didn't the same thing happen with Whitey Bulger and Greg Scarpa?
It's a similar story.
Top echelon FBI informants who are continuing to kill people.
Yeah, same. It's funny. It's weird. It's the same kind of theory. And to throw in a kicker, I wrote an article about this case.
Right.
In Costa Nostra News. And after I wrote the article, I got a phone call. So I'm looking at the number. I recognize it's a PA number. So I'm thinking it's Nicky calling me, maybe. I don't know how. I wasn't sure because usually when they call you from prison, it doesn't show the number. So it usually shows restricted or something. So I answer the phone. I go, hello? So I realized after talking to this guy on the phone, who didn't give me his name, and he kept telling me, well, you wrote the article about my friend Nicky, and my mother was very sad about it. I'm like, your mother? I go, what are you talking about? Who are you? I said, what are you talking about? Because I never mentioned the guy's name. I know the real guy's name, but I never mentioned it. Then I realized the shooter's calling me. The actual guy who is calling me. And I know why he did. He probably did because he got scared now because I exposed him. I exposed who really did the shooting.
He's trying to intimidate you for speaking up. You're not under an oath. You're going to try to do the right thing to help your friend.
So. Exactly. I mean, thank God nothing happened after that. But the point is that that's the evidence right there that this guy knows he's guilty. Because I just exposed it.
Yeah, about him looking you up, he's trying to send like an underhanded intimidation message a little bit too.
Somewhat like that.
I'd like to see that article. If you want, I could put it up as a link too, if you want me to look at it. Do you want me to maybe cover the case and maybe we can circle back for another interview about your friend's case?
I mean, well, look, like I said, the poor guy's in prison. He lost his wife. His wife doesn't talk to him. His kids, he hasn't seen his kids in 20 years now. It's a shame. It's one thing to do a crime, like I said, and you did something, you go to prison, you deserve to be there.
Well, anyway, the offer stands because we do cover cases of wrongful conviction. And what happens is I'm dealing with a guy up in New Jersey State Prison. I think it's a life sentence. And Freddie Agulo, he used to design guitars. Now, this guy, you've probably seen him all over the place trying to get out of prison. He's in leadership in a 1%er biker club. And get him on that. But they pinned something else on him, and there's all kinds of proof that he didn't do it. They were just looking to get rid of the guy, and it's a shame because the guy has a completely different heart now for things in life in general. I'm not saying he was an angel either, but you get people the right way. And that's kind of what our system's built on. I was a law clerk in prison, so I've seen many cases of real actual innocence, and unfortunately, the Innocence Projects will only get involved with guys if they got clear DNA clearing them, or life or death sentence. And even then, when I would write for somebody, most of these guys in prison that need help, they're illiterate. So I have to do the letter writing and everything. The Innocence Project will send you a packet of like 15, 20 pages long. They want all this information. Who was your lawyer? Did you have your discovery, your police reports, this, that. It's such a tedious process, and they deny like 98% of the people that look for help. And so it's very difficult. So I don't mind if you have everything in one place, if you want to help tell your friend's story. I don't know if he's putting in for a clemency or trying to go back to court.
I think he is now currently, I believe. Um, and there's an organization called, what's it called again? I don't know if it was the Innocence Project or there's another one. Wrongfully Convicted. It's another. It's an
There's a
organization.
few of them. Centaurian Ministries in New Jersey is another one. There's a lot of
Well,
them.
I reached out to one of them. I think it was Innocence Project or Wrongfully Convicted or whatever. One
Yeah.
of the two. And they, you're not gonna believe what they told me. They said to me, "Why don't you just have your friend testify?" Right. I'm like, what? That's your answer?
This guy been telling you he takes his oath serious, even though he's not necessarily involved anymore.
I
That's
know why they
that's
said
the
that.
wrong thing to ask him.
I mean, no, that's what they told me. No, I told them what the case is and what I'm looking, looking for help, looking for assistance to help him.
So
And they,
is the real shooter, is he a made guy too in the Philly mob too, or no? I think
no, I don't think he's made. He's an associate. I don't think he was
okay.
made.
Now I know very little about the Philly mob. I know back in the day they had a very dangerous, crazy guy named Scarpo, right?
Oh,
Scarpo, right?
yeah.
Nicky Scarpo. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now was he part of Nicky's crew?
No, he was part of John Stanford's crew, which is after Nicky Scarpa. But he
Okay.
knew he was in prison. My Nicky was in prison with Scarpo and John Gotti Sr.
I remember they were saying Nicky was so paranoid he had like almost everybody around him killed. He thought
Uh,
everybody was cooperating.
total nut. Uh,
You think?
that's why his own nephew Philip Leonetti flipped on him because the guy was off the rails. He wasn't, he was almost like a mob boss serial killer. He wasn't
Yeah.
even.
Like
Uh,
the Grim Reaper, right? Another
yeah,
one.
like Greg Scarpa. Uh,
Greg Scarpa.
and I know Linda. I know Scarpa's daughter, Linda. Linda's a sweetheart. And the thing with Scarpa was that he when he was in prison with John Senior and my Nicky was in prison with them in Terre Haute, Indiana, and my Nicky got made in prison. They made him at a church chapel, which is pretty interesting.
Right.
And Nicky Scarpa always he used to tell people in prison that my Nicky was his nephew. They're related, which they weren't.
Right.
And it was a protection purposes, basically. That's kind of reason why he did it.
Listen, around my neighborhood, I'm from like Sheepshead Bay, Bensonhurst, Gravesend, right? I'm from Brooklyn. One of
Oh,
my neighbors, not too far away, what was it, Avenue Y or something, was Carlo Gambino. Okay, he used to go to my church. I seen him around the neighborhood, and he knew my grandfather, Santo Maloney. My grandfather was from Sicily, and I was a little boy going off to Our Lady of Grace, like where they filmed Gravesend in that church. That's my church where I grew up. I was an
mm,
altar boy there. I went to school there, and he used to say, pat me on the head. My mother was mentally ill. He'd see me, Billy, I know your grandfather. Stay in school. You got good parents. Stay in school. Carlo Gambino. When I was a little kid in the '60s.
well, that guy was the last of the Mohegans, so to speak. He was a real boss, smart guy. He knew exactly what he was doing. Stayed under the radar. No flamboyancy, no cameras. Very smart. That's why he lasted this long. Because he knew, he lived by the old ways, the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be
Yeah,
a simple
no, I can't
society.
understand why. They claim there's a lot of unauthorized hits of bosses over the years, but with the Gotti situation, I know there's two schools of thought on this.
Hmm.
His free talking on the FBI bugs in the Ravenite upstairs in the lady's apartment really is what did everybody in and pissed off
Hmm.
Sammy. I don't support what Sammy did, but I mean, if that's true, if they let him hear those recordings and John's talking about murders that Sammy committed and a place he should have known was bugged, and to guys that weren't made, isn't that like a major violation of the rules?
Well, technically, I mean, the boss can say whatever he wants to say, technically.
Yeah,
But,
you got
but
diplomatic immunity, I guess.
yeah, well, Sammy, look, I'm not a big fan of Sammy either. Not
Me
because
neither.
not because of what he did, mind you. The reason why I say that is because I don't even like to use the word rat. I think the term even fits,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you why. My opinion um, is that people do what they do for a certain reason. We call people rats or snitches or whatever. Granted, I understand you take the oath and you got to die with the oath. Yes, I believe that. I'm not disputing that theory. But at the same token, guys like my John or Sammy or my friend Larry Mazza or and my other friend Andrew DiDonato. All these guys, they did what they did because there's a reason for it.
Right.
Now, John Senior, and I respected John Senior. I do. I liked him. I met John once, and I respect him. I always did. I think he was too flamboyant and too much loved the media, ate it up. But um, him saying what he said on those tapes, and Sammy hearing it, we could say Sammy's this and Sammy's that. But one thing, there's a guy, Sonny Francis, which I'm sure you know the name. Sonny Francis was, acting or major leader of the Colombo family.
Right. His son is Michael. He's out in California now.
Right. Well, his adopted son, really, to be honest, to
Mhm.
say the truth. Um, Now, Sonny used to hang out at a place that I used to go to all the time. I used to hang out with this guy Carmine Q, and Carmine Q and me used to hang out at this place called Brunelli's on York Avenue and 71st Street in Manhattan. It was in a corner place. People used to, or every Wednesday night, we used to hang out there.
Mhm.
Actors used to hang out there, filmmakers, wise guys, politicians, whatever. So every Wednesday night, we used to hang out there. We used to have a table, me and Carmine. And Sonny used to come every now and then because Sonny and Carmine were good friends.
Mhm.
And we were talking one day about snitches. So Sonny said to me, he goes, and to Carmine, we're discussing, and he says, I don't like guys who snitch. Granted, he says I don't like them. I said, but at the same token, with all these other people on the street, regular people, regular civilians, and people on TV saying, "Oh, he's a rat. He's a piece of garbage. He's no good." Yes, it's bad that he snitched. He broke the oath, but these people were saying things about them. Did they live in their shoes?
Right.
Live in my shoes for a day, then come judge me.
Right.
It makes sense. I understand what he's
Yeah,
saying.
because there's a lot of betrayal. So many people don't uphold their oath of these different organizations in many ways. They're messing around with each other's wives. They're stealing. They're not turning over all their money. Whatever they're supposed to. They're not kicking up the way they're supposed to. And a lot of these guys that you've never heard of because they never testified in the trial, when the truth comes out, they were operating as informants, but their name doesn't come out unless they testify. So this other names I'm not even going to name here because I'm not looking to get sued. But there's many of them that were operating as CIs, and like you said, you never know the reasons why. And I'm not here to judge anybody. So
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people get on these shows and talk bad about other people, like my friend John. No, not John. He's my John Alite I'm talking about. Here's John, who's not even Italian. Didn't even take the oath. He's an associate. Well, major associate. He was John Gotti Jr.'s bodyguard, for Christ's sake. So that's high up on the ladder, in my opinion. And when he knew indictments were coming down, his lawyer told him, he went on the lam. So he didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to flip now because I'm under indictment." He didn't do that. He
right,
took off. He took off. He ended up in Europe. Then from Europe, he ended up in Brazil. And when he was in Brazil, he got arrested in Brazil by Brazilian police.
I remember that. Yep.
Not for what he did here, for something he did there.
Yeah.
So here he is, and he ends up in one of the worst prisons in the world, Cayo Franco. Terrible prison. I can't even tell you how bad it is. And so here he is in one of the worst prisons of the world, where he could just pick up the phone and call the FBI in New York and say, "I want to snitch." But he didn't do it. He didn't say nothing. He didn't do nothing. Then eventually he got extradited back to the States. And that's when he found out, when the FBI sat with him, when he got, picked up in Miami airport. And they told him, "Hey, Nick, hey, John," they showed him a stack of guys who testified against him. 30 guys ratted on him here in New York. Guys he worked with, captains he worked with, associates, his own cousin that was in the in that life. So wait a minute. If you were him, you're sitting there and the FBI is showing you proof that 30 guys ratted on you. He says you have two choices, John.
Right.
You judging what we have here, you could do two life terms. What do you want to do? Oh, duh. I mean, come on. What do you expect the guy to do?
So let's listen to this. You remember when Gotti was the Teflon Don in the 80s? He was beating all his charges. There was what was her name? Guy Cleone, the prosecutor.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'm from Brooklyn, but I had charges in Nassau County. I'm sitting in the jail, right? And I had a, let's just say, because I'm white and have blue eyes, I had a whole bunch of blacks, jump me, broke some bones in my face, almost lost my eye because I'm the blue-eyed devil. So I'm not going to say the name of that particular group, but anyway, so I go to the hospital, I get surgery, come out, like I don't have problems in jail or prison ever because I know how to carry myself. And usually, when you're the law clerk, they know that I'm the guy that can help them get back to court, find records, do internal affairs complaints, lawsuits against, whatever, whoever's coming against them. I'm very proficient at that. And so every group in prison where I've ever been, hands off. They call me New York. New York's working on my case. Don't mess with them. I've had like you guys from this one of the Black Street gangs tell me they'd hang out in front of my cell making noise and drinking and smoking weed all night. I'm trying to go to sleep. It's late night, 1 a.m. They're out there carrying on, banging on tables, and I'd be like, "Hey guys, hold it down. F you, cracker, honky, blah blah." I said, "Whatever, man." Slam my cell door, try to get some sleep, right? Because you don't want to get jumped by 20 of them, right? So,
Of course
and
not.
I'm like, during the day though, they want to be my best friend because I'm working on this case and that case, whites, blacks, Spanish, whatever. I'm not. So at one time, one of their leaders came to me. He says, "New York, I need your help, and if you tell anybody what I'm about to tell you, I'll make sure you don't make it off the yard." He said, "Look, you know who I am in this organization." He said, "I made a deal with the cops. I gave up a murder up in Chicago, and they promised me a deal down here. And if my boys find out about it, I'll be killed." And he said, "If you tell anybody," he says, "how do I get enforce the deal that they made with me behind the scenes? Can you help me?" I says, "Wait 1 minute. Come in my cell for a second." Now this is a big dude who like runs a whole organization. I says, "Now, no offense, but aren't you the guy every Friday, Saturday night in front of my cell door, carrying on with your homeboys, preventing me from sleeping when I'm trying to write books, read my Bible, and do something productive with my time?" I said, "Now you want my help." I said, "Isn't that interesting?" I said, "I'll try to help you, but there's going to be no more hanging out in front of my cell door on the weekends and keeping me awake all night. Take that drinking and weed smoking and racist BS down the block, please, respectfully, and I'll help you." And we had so every group I had an understanding with. Now I'm gonna go back to the situation where I came out of the hospital. Now in the infirmary portion of the Nassau County Jail. Now you're a mob expert from New York. Do you remember bank robber Matty Trainer?
Yeah, sure.
Guess who was in there with me?
Oh,
Matty.
Matt was in there with you. Shoot.
They had him hiding. They had stashed him there from New York City, and he was in for bank robberies as a witness against Gotti.
Right. Yes.
I was in the same unit with bank robber Matty Trainer the day that Willie Boy Johnson got killed for being an informant. He was identified as a top echelon informant against the Gambinos and John Gotti. Top echelon informant Willie Boy Johnson. Remember that murder?
Yeah, that was Diane Ciccolone's fault.
That's exactly right. She got him killed. So I'm in jail with this guy, having just recovered. I'm recovering, right? They have him hiding out in the medical unit. Everybody's like, "Don't talk to him. He's testifying against Gotti next week." And I'm like, "What?" I thought that's a Manhattan case. No, they're hiding him out here in Long Island.
Smart.
this guy was a flamer, man. I don't care about somebody's lifestyle, what you do in private. But this scary bank robbing, dude who was pretty damn violent and dangerous himself, man, he was going after everybody young that came through there. He had this thing where he'd have a box of pretzels with a hole in the bottom and put his thing in it and invite somebody over to have some pretzels if they were new and young and came into that unit.
Oh,
He
Jesus.
was such a dirtbag. I cannot tell you how many times that this guy, bank robber, was in the bathroom doing whatever with anybody and everybody. He was disgusting. Listen, when it was only him and Willie Boy that were witnesses against Gotti at the time, as far as
Right.
I know.
That's correct.
Now, when he saw Willie Boy got killed, his hair went from jet black to
Yep.
like gray in just a few weeks.
I can imagine.
He aged 100 years during that week. And he would get pulled out for interviews constantly around that time because I think that's when he was trying to change the story. And that's when he said, "Oh, yeah, the prosecutor let me have her panties and some Valiums to take back to the jail." Remember
Yeah,
that?
I remember that.
I was with him, man. I was like, dude, you're gonna get killed, man. He was always looking out of the window for helicopters and snipers and stuff.
But don't forget, that sounds. So listen to what he just said. He said that also to cover himself up, so people don't think he's Farouk.
Yeah, well, he was. I don't think he was made because he had Irish. He was
No,
Irish and something else.
no.
But he was one of
Well,
Gotti's child. Wasn't he a member of the Rampers Street Gang back when Gotti was in the
I think he
Rampers?
was. If I think so, I believe so. I
No,
think.
that was Sammy made. But anyway, so yeah, he was in the street gang with him in Howard Beach, and they were lifelong friends. But he could never be made. But he rolled on Gotti. Boy, he changed his story and threw the prosecutor under the bus.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I'm telling you, I was the inside person that saw how that played out. It happened once he saw Willie Boy Johnson murdered.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. I remember he was going out to work. He lived in Canarsie, and I think it was two gunmen like shot him like 10 or 20 times right in his driveway.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Something to that degree.
What did she do? Leak the name to the defense lawyer or something?
Yeah, something like she made it public. I think she was in the media or something, and stupid move. And she was desperate because she was trying to find something that's going to hold water with her case, which is pretty dumb way to do it because you're putting somebody's life in jeopardy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
You know.
Listen, so we got an hour here. We can keep rolling and split this up, or we can wrap it up and say, come back another time.
Whatever works best for you, my man. You know.
I say we wrap this one up. We come back soon. Just real quickly, tell me what else you want to promote, what you're doing, what you want my audience to know about, and then I'm going to be on your show here shortly in a week or two. And
Yes.
so you and I are going to do another one of these, and I'm going to do one or two more with you.
Well, what I'm doing now, like the show that you're going to be on, I'm going to have you on in about a week. Mob Tales, which is a YouTube channel. Interview a lot of guys that were from that life, actors that were in played those kind of roles, and a lot of other different individuals as well that will be of interest to the public. Working on my 5th book now, like I said, Flowers of the Not Forever. Trying to get my film done, Destinies, that we're looking for investors in the project.
Right.
Working with the film company, Shake the Tree Productions.
Are you on like Kickstarter or something trying to raise money?
No, I don't do it like that. I do it the way it's supposed to be done. That's
all right. We'll talk about that privately. Maybe I can help you. What else?
I try to do the right way with real investors because I think doing something like Kickstarter, that kind of thing, I think it's kind of cheesy. It kind of takes away from the integrity of the project in some ways. It almost feels like you're desperate, and I don't like to do that. So that's kind of like what I'm on the process of working on right now. And I've done a little bit of acting with my good friend Sean King, who's a director for his film that's coming out sometime next year called Brooklyn Ties.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I acted a little bit in it.
Is Joe DeBarry in that? I think Joe's in there.
Yes, Joe's in it, correct.
I know Joe real well.
Joe's a great guy. Yeah, actually, we did a short film together. No, I'm not in it, but he acted in a short film of mine, which was about my first book, Destinies. We did a short promo film just to get people, to know about the project, and he acted in it. He was pretty good. It was fun working on doing that. Right. People could find online actually the short film.
So to find you, go to the links in the descriptions for all your books. I'm going to put them up there, and Mob Tales on YouTube. Check out Nick. Thank you, Nick, for joining us.
Thank everybody. You. A lot of fun, William. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching.
No problem, buddy.